Welcome everybody to another Permadirt and Friends review. Today we have ourselves The Last of Us episode 8.
Ooh.
And boy, are we excited to talk about this one. I can feel it. I can
Ooh.
feel it through the computer screens, everyone. You guys feel it?
I feel the vibes.
Can you feel it?
I feel the vibes.
You feel the vibes? Ostrich feeling vibes. Poka, he's smiling,
vibing.
vibing. Yeah, oh, now he's frowny facing. He's frowny facing. Yeah, we're going to be talking about episode 8. But before we kind of get into all that stuff, let's do a little housekeeping. If everyone wants to watch maybe some previous reviews, maybe you want to see some other stuff, go ahead and click on the old YouTubes. And when you're there, go check out Permadirt Gaming, where all these videos are stored. And maybe click on them, leave a like. You know, all the love is loved. Does that make sense?
All the love
Is loved.
Feel it all.
You know, I feel like I'm on my game today, guys.
Not me.
If you're not into the YouTubes and you just want to, stay on the old the purple Twitch gang here, you can go and see Ostrichwrangler, who's over there, who's currently sneezing. Oh my gosh! Or you can go see Poka on the other side. There's so much happening in my ears right now. You can go check them out on Twitch as well. All our handles are beneath us, but I guess I should formally introduce them with their tags. On the one side here, Poka_TTV. This man is the PvPvE champion of the Tarkov cheating world. How's it going this week?
I have not played, really.
You haven't played? Am I gonna stir up the Tarkov community with comments like that every week?
No. Well, maybe.
Okay.
Some only the cheaters get mad at the
Only cheaters
people
get
are
mad. You're
getting
right.
called
Only the
out.
cheaters get mad. You're right. And we don't respect cheaters here.
Yeah. They can
cheaters
they
can-
can die in a ditch somewhere. I don't care.
Whoa. We do not condone that, internet, but Poka_TTV
condone.
does. So go check his stream out. On the other side, we have Ostrichwrangler 1, who also streams. And we found out last week. Now you're retired? It's been a month, but I'm sure Hogwarts is still there.
Oh man, I played for like 4 hours today. It was sick.
You played for 4 hours today?
Yep. That's a lot.
You didn't work?
I went home sick.
Oh,
I
and
made it
here he
halfway.
is this evening, everyone.
Made it halfway through. Yeah, thriving in my current condition.
Oh well, it wouldn't be a Permadirt Friends review if it wasn't just a bunch of questionable stuff in the first 3 minutes of it. So we are here to talk about The Last of Us episode 8. And I really do feel like this is going to be a banger. I feel like we're going to have a lot of opinions. And I know the boys are probably pretty excited based on their reviews of last week's. And like I said, if you missed it, go check it out. But spoiler, the boys didn't really love that one last. I loved it. Neil Druckmann, if you're in chat, I loved it. Okay.
Don't look good.
Neil,
Fantastic
if you're in here,
storytelling.
it was terrible.
Oh my gosh, you guys are so mean.
No, I've voiced my opinion. I think he just
Yeah, it's
released
critical
it at a
opinion. It's
bad
okay.
time.
It's okay.
But we're not talking about that anymore.
Yeah, that's
So
last week.
that's last week. Before we get any further here, let's get initial thoughts. Initial thoughts here without, giving away all the topics. What do you guys think? What do you think, Poka?
I'm happy. I'm satisfied. I'll say.
You feel satisfied?
I feel
Okay.
satisfied.
Okay, nice. Satisfied? You felt like this is what you needed coming off of last episode?
Like it wasn't like there was a lot. But we'll get to it when we get there. Just it was enough that made me happy to see certain things happen. More.
Okay. And Ostrich, what were you thinking here?
I was jazzed.
You're jazzed. Jazz hands?
I always like to pause the video or the show at some point just to see how much time is left. And
Oh, I hate it when you do that. I remember that. Oh, you are the okay. I'm sorry. I don't want to interrupt you, but chat, if you have, or anyone watching this video, comment down below. If you have a friend who likes to pause the movie and see how much is left and constantly ruin the tension, let me tell you, Ostrich is your guy.
I had to. And I paused it. And there was 6 minutes left in the episode. And I was discouraged immensely because it just flew by. And honestly, I was coming in on a pretty low. I knew it was going to be good, but I came in feeling pretty morose, not actually super psyched to watch Last of Us after the last couple episodes. So,
Whoa.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
It's good. I mean, honesty is what we're going for here. This is why we respect opinions around here, even if they're wrong. Okay. Just jokes, everyone. Just jokes. Let's get into the breakdown here of this episode because I feel like we're going to have some stuff to talk about. I know I got some stuff to talk about. The Last of Us episode 8, entitled We Are in Need, was 50 minutes, directed by Ali Abbasi again. Or Ali Abbasi. I think they no, this might have been the first one. This individual did. Written by, again, Craig Mazin, who did the other ones, a lot of the other ones as well. Who's obviously him and Mr. Druckmann. They both wrote a majority of these, so it's not surprised his name's on this one. So we start off exactly where we left off. Oh no, not yet. No, sorry. We start off in a chilly lake town, which we eventually figure out is Silver Lake, I think is the community, right beside a lake. Magical waters. It looks terrible in this town. I'm gonna be honest with you. As someone who lives in Canada with snow,
looks like Canada.
It looks like Canada. Yeah, it looks like Alberta where they shot it. All we hear, they're panning across different parts of this town. It's a very, like, obviously they're giving a very, like, cold, bleak sort of look here. They're just showing, you know, the water and different, like, snowy streets and everything. And you hear scripture being read sort of in the background a little bit as they get closer to this old sort of steak house or whatever it's supposed to be. Maybe like a hotel or something also. I don't know. In the game, I think it's also a hotel / steakhouse. I don't know if this was just a steakhouse. And inside there is a preacher preaching, and there's a banner behind him that reads, when we are in need, he shall provide. So we're kind of getting into the whole coming over the gates here real quick. And we got the preacher religious side things here. A girl suddenly starts crying in the background. And obviously, you know, everything is not good in this town. She starts crying. He comes over there and says, kind of asks what's going on. She asks, we need, you know, can we bury him? You know, basically alludes to someone had died, and obviously he's heartbroken. And he says, it's too hard out there right now. The ground's too hard. We can't bury him. We need to wait till spring. And anyone who's played the game knew where this was going immediately. And if you hadn't, we're going to find out real soon. So they say they can't do that. And this guy is the local priest, basically, and leader of this community. So their little sort of, I don't know what you call it, if it was actually like church or if it was just a meeting or what the deal was going on there, but it ends and they all, yeah, it seemed churchy, but also I don't know if it was because it seemed very like informal. It's like a town meeting that he was that he was preaching at. I don't know.
I think it was a funeral, like they were having a funeral, which is
Yeah,
why he
could
said
be.
he said that scripture so many or too many times already.
Oh, that could be. Yeah, that
'cause he
might
would
be
just
an
keep
accurate take.
repeating the same one
That's
for
a
their
good
Yeah.
holy funeral. But that's
just be a
just what I
funeral.
thought when I heard that.
It felt like an AA meeting.
Well, yeah.
So I mean that's a good take. That could definitely be right. I never even thought of that. So they meet outside. We meet this other character named James, who's played by the one, the only Troy Baker, who we can talk about him at the end too, but in my opinion, spoiler, he nails it. Asks how much food they have left. And James kind of gives him the low, you know, the quick dirty of it that they probably got like 2 weeks maximum like of food left if they ration, and they're currently rationing. So it's not looking good. David also says at this point too, he felt doubt in that room, and James right away assumes he's talking about everyone else, all the people, the townspeople that were in there. But James, the preacher, says no, like I felt it from you. David, is the preacher who says to James, I felt it about you, Troy Bakers, and right away calling into doubt his allegiance, this is his right hand man. He's already questioning him. So he basically says, let's get the guns and go hunting. Now we snap back to Ellie and Joel, who are currently not doing great. We left them off not doing great to begin with, just sewing them up, but she kind of takes a look at the wound. It's oozing things. It's still not completely closed up. It's not looking great. But at least he's not bleeding everywhere. They are low on food. You see Ellie kind of eats a little chunk of food and puts a little bit over by Joel. It's not very much at all. And then she decides to go out hunting. She goes out into the forest. She's looking for tracks. She sees a rabbit, trips over a log. You can tell she's kind of clumsy. This isn't her thing. And then eventually she stumbles upon a deer, which is very rare. I gotta imagine as a hunter, you know, as a hunter, you don't just run up on deer. I mean, I can tell you as someone who has dealt with deer, they hear you from a mile away. So the fact she runs up on it is pretty awesome. She takes the shot, hits the deer. She's like, yeah. And then the deer runs off. It's bleeding. She's tracking it, yada, yada, yada. Suddenly we snap back to David and James, who left to go hunt as well. And they find, lo and behold, the deer dead right in front of them. And they wonder if they should take it. They're kind of having this back and forth. Should we take it? Should we take it? It looks fresh. Whoever shot it's probably coming for them. They're having this back and forth. And then eventually you hear Ellie behind them telling them to back away and throw down the rifle.
Really lowered her voice for that one.
Yeah, back away.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, exactly. And she says, if anybody moves, Buddy Boy gets one, which is the great, I love it, Buddy Boy. I love she's calling Troy Baker Buddy Boy. That's fantastic. That's so good. And then they kind of start talking back and forth here. David, who kind of, once again, like I said, is the town leader, starts right away striking up a conversation with her. And just says like, hey, like we need it. We have hungry people as well. And I mean, we can trade stuff for it. And so she right away says medicine. And they find that, they say, yes, we got medicine, penicillin, that sort of stuff with a needle. So then at this point, David sends James, says, go back to town and get that medicine. And then Ellie gives some more instructions at this point and says, okay, Buddy Boy, go get it, and sends him off, which is pretty funny. I like that. Again, uses the Buddy Boy. If tries anything, she's going to shoot him, yada, yada, yada. At this point, I think it was also pretty interesting because they threw both the rifles on the ground. Ellie goes up and empties the shells out of the guns,
That was cool.
which I thought was very cool.
Yeah.
A little interesting because it's not like we've seen her learn that before in this world, but definitely really, really smart. So Ellie takes the shells out of the rifle, and then David, still being sort of that preacher type of guy, is trying to strike up a conversation with her. Trying to really like be like, hey, is that like your dad's gun? He asks him, and that like we don't need to stand out in the cold. We can go into that shack over there and we can make a fire. I got oil and wood and stuff. We can make a fire. And of course it's super cold, as we said before. So they go inside the building, and they basically start to get chit chat, start to know each other. Obviously he's being held at gunpoint. And basically alludes, eventually they talk back and forth and says he's a preacher. It wasn't always that way. He was a teacher. And obviously Ellie immediately says, well, would you do it because it rhymed or whatever? You make that switch because it rhymed?
She had some quips,
which is funny.
in this scene.
It's funny.
Yeah.
Good stuff. It was great stuff. He says actually he found God after the apocalypse, alluding that, his wasn't the calling beforehand. He came originally from Pittsburgh, which again, through the game, in the game you go through Pittsburgh on the way out here, and the show we went to Kansas City, but either way he's kind of on the similar trail that we are. And they just kind of he's telling a story of how him and these other people kept stopping and settling, and they kept getting pushed out by raiders. Which makes sense. I mean, if you've seen the world they're living in, raiders are constantly moving them around. They start talking about luck and how everything comes together. And he says he doesn't believe in luck, as opposed to Ellie thinks everything's luck. He says he believes everything happens for a reason. He says, for example, he sent 4 people to a nearby town to get supplies and one didn't come back. They say this father was killed by a man and a girl. And immediately, you can see just Ellie just freaks out because like, holy cow, this is the one that Joel killed when he got stabbed in the abdomen. So, and now they know, they're all squared up. They know exactly where everyone stands at this point. This is where David, James says, lower the gun. And you right away whip around and realize that James had a gun on Ellie, this whole time, which was, again, reminiscent of the game's very cool moment. So James does lower the gun, and David sort of talks him off the whole situation. And David throws down the penicillin, and the syringe and lets her leave. So she runs off, back to the house, where we have sort of a doctor scene where she's like, I got this needle and I don't know where to put it. And she's kind of freaking out. But she eventually stabs it right through the wound. Which was, I mean, honestly, where do you put it? Where do you put it for the most?
What would you do in this scene? Like, I wouldn't know how much.
Am I the only one that looked
antibiotics to
up
give to someone.
afterwards? With like
You looked it up?
where to put it.
I
It
imagine
said,
a large chunk of meat
yeah, just put it in
in a
muscle.
muscle. Like,
But
yeah,
how
put it in
much?
muscle. So, like,
That
well, that doesn't. I don't worry so much about that.
Yeah.
At this point, he's burnt. Like, more would be better than less, I guess. But yeah, I would think just knowing basic things, you always want to hit in a large muscle group because it's got lots of blood flow. So that's probably what you would want. But
The one thing I will
either way, did you notice kind of details when she put the needle in? Some of it was coming back up through the stitches.
Oh, really?
I think a couple of it little bubbled up a little bit. Yeah, it was kind of disgusting, but I dug that.
the scene was done really well with when I want to just call back to it a bit
Mhm.
when the preacher guy shifts his tone and like he kind of says like is traveling with the little girl and like um Miss Wrangler commented on it. She's like that was a crazy good scene for that guy because his entire demeanor shifts in one line, and then you kind of get an itty bitty glimpse of not so nice preacher. Yeah, it was kind of
Yeah,
menacing. It was cool.
I kind of did, but I also didn't. I didn't really buy fully yet. Like it wasn't. I don't know. I kind of saw that too, and I kind of heard it, but I was also kind of like, I think he was just. It's a power play again. Like I think what he's doing here, and we'll talk about again more at the end once we know everything and everything's been said about him. But I feel like this is just part again of his power trip.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about that. But
Yeah. Because right now he's kind of saying like, I don't know why they follow me. I'm just the guy, and
yeah,
he's not.
he's not really saying like I wanted this and I'm a power hungry guy. Like because he even says like I'm just kind of like I want more powerful. You're a powerful person, right? Like you're
Yeah.
trying to. He's trying to like almost get out of the responsibility because they're not doing well under his leadership, right?
Totally. Yeah.
So, anyway, so they go in, they apply, or Ellie applies the penicillin. Now they go back to the camp, where David and James both pull a deer through the front door of their steakhouse, and at this point, there's been a little cafeteria scene where they're eating venison. So it is said a tub of venison and a can of tomatoes.
Poka, had you known everything about this scene already? Like, did you?
No. Like I didn't know fully what was happening, but
Right.
I definitely had suspicions at this point.
Yeah.
Okay, you had suspicions the whole time
Because
about it.
just before they come in with the deer, I believe, is when they're like preparing the food in the back, and he's like, what is this?" He's like,
Right.
"Venison," and then like 10 seconds later, he walks in with the deer, and I'm just
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
anyways,
Fair.
Yeah.
I was curious if
This is
it was obvious for someone or
yeah, someone
evident.
from the outside.
yeah.
Had Mrs. Ostrich known this part?
She did not,
Okay. What was her vibe on that? Do you know? Just could be interesting as well.
but because I know she's always like, she'll just
Suspicious.
rapid fire questions. She's like, "Is
Oh,
that?"
yeah.
She's like, "Is that what that is?"
Okay.
And
Oh,
I was
yeah.
like, "I'm not telling you anything," but
I'll tell you nothing.
she was under quite suspicions quickly. So
At this point. Okay.
Yeah.
So
was
yeah,
just
they're
trying to
making
go
this
flat in the
they're making this venison and tomato sort of stew garbage stuff. And then they drag the deer into the lodge. I'm hoping they could tell they were hoping for a warm welcome. They're like, "Hey, look what we got. We should celebrate." And everyone could have cared less. Like this entire town, was eating here and they all barely looked at them.
Yeah.
Like couldn't care. And then he kind of reads the room and he says, in the morning they will go back and they'll bring this man to justice. They'd heard at this point that the man had been found. When they were referring to the man, they mean Joel. That they were gonna go back and they were gonna serve justice to him. And then this is where the girl at this point, the girl that was crying in the first scene, says they should kill him. So David walks up to her and and I put here slaps her into next week.
Lord, she got
that
hit
caught me off
hard.
guard. I was
She
like,
got backhanded so hard.
yeah, that was tense.
This was the scene right here that for sure nailed it down for me of that they were going this direction with this character.
Uh-huh.
Because I wasn't really sure at this point, like he wasn't, like you said, other than maybe that one line when they were talking, it wasn't really clear yet that, oh, okay, maybe they're taking this character a different direction, and Troy Baker's character might be that person. But this is where you could kind of see like, oh dang, like this is the dude. Like this, he is in there. That anger is inside there. You know what I mean? Because in one little instance, not only does he strike this girl down, who is not his daughter, right? He also put a hand up to tell the mom, do not move. So he commanded her not to move, so she didn't move. And then he also picked her back up. So, and then he refers to something up. He says something here about fathers.
Yeah, he was like,
thing, yeah.
he's like,
You always have a
think,
father.
Yeah, you think
Or
you
you-
don't have
yeah.
a father, or something like that.
But you'll always have a father. And you assume at this point, or you always have a father to pick you up or something like that. And then he picks her up. So you're kind of like, this guy, you kind of think in your head, okay, he's referring, being a preacher, he's referring to the like Jesus, like the Lord.
Right.
And then, but at the same time, he picks her up. He's like, oh, so
Yes. Yeah, agreed.
he is God here, is what he's saying. Like,
And then he's sitting
so
there. Oh.
yeah, and he's like,
Well, now
so
the crazy
it's
thing is after like he sits down, kind of like the woman walks away or her mom walks away really quickly, and I thought she was like piecing out in
Yeah.
protest, but then
Yeah.
comes back with a big plate of food for him, and I think it solidified that scene just a little bit more.
yeah, it
Yeah.
was no longer like, oh, I just have this I just have this power because I was defaulted into it. It's no, you want this power and you were you're exercising every
Yeah,
inch of it. You know what I mean? So very creepy scene. Definitely solidified that part, along with everything else that's going on around here. One thing I failed to mention before too is that all these guys, the entire village looks like they look like they're on something. Like they all gang, like they're all just like, they have weird looks about them. You know what I mean? Like when you look at them, they're all hair sort of scraggly. Like they look like they're like they're suffering, and which I
cannibal
felt
look.
also. Yeah, it does. It really does. And at this point, like I said, she goes and grabs him a bowl of this. Well, at this point, we think venison, tomato. Everyone eats. Some are inhaling it. This is also another really key thing. A lot of the town is inhaling this stuff. Like they are just going to town on this food. They're not even touching it.
uh-huh.
Or like they're not even looking up, sorry. They're just going, and all you
Goodbye.
hear, the sound in this scene is just like metal or just glass and like cutlery and everything tink, like ting 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 ting,
Yeah,
like everyone's just
I like
going
that.
nuts. Very cool direction. But if you look around when they're doing their shots, there's a select few, so people like James, people like David, other ones the few who know what's going on, don't really touch it. They kind of like are like, we know what this is, we're not doing this. They kind of eat around it a little bit. Like they might go for like the tomato-ish stuff. They kind of eat around it. But also like you look at them, they're kind of like looking at each other, and they're also just like, do I want to, like, we need to eat this still? I know what it is, and it's kind of a very cool scene. It's just dark all around. Like
Yep.
the scene is just very dark.
So okay,
Um,
are we just straight out saying what's happening here, or because there was something I saw that I think may have been
Sure,
not missed. So like we're saying it, right?
just do it. Let's just go
Okay.
for it.
So they're eating people.
We're
right?
people.
Mhm.
They're people. They're eating people.
Yeah, we know that.
So he's sitting there eating this giant plate of food with meat in it, right, in front of this
Yep.
girl and her mom, where her father just recently died. So is
Yeah.
there a very good chance that he's eating and forcing them to eat their own father or her
There's a
father?
very good chance. 100%.
And
Yep,
like
100%.
someone was saying that, and I was, oh, that is
I hadn't thought of that. That's gross.
absolutely sick.
I
Like
hate that.
That is disgusting. That is next level torture.
like
That's the vibe you got. Yeah. I
would you-
agree.
Would you rather die?
Yes. At that point, I would rather
think
just
I
die.
would put a lot more effort into hunting. Ellie goes out, finds a deer on her first day.
I was gonna
and,
say, Ellie just
Effort into
basically
hunting,
stumbled,
or just maybe being a vegetarian for a little while.
yeah, figure something out.
or
there's-
maybe like next summer, like
Grow
plant
some potatoes?
something. I don't
Yep.
know. Yeah, there's got to be potato seeds out there somewhere. Yeah. So this scene I thought was just great. I really love this whole thing. Yeah. So after the scene, morning comes, and now we're back with Ellie and Joel, and Ellie's still caring for Joel. She gives him another shot of penicillin, and she leaves the garage. to get snow, to like obviously give water to the horse because there's a horse in there still. I can't remember the horse's name. I always call it Peanut in the game, but it's not Peanut. And then suddenly, this is the one part too where I kind of went, this is like, I'm not always believable, but Ellie sees a bunch of birds suddenly get up and fly away, and she immediately picks up on something, that something has disturbed them.
I was screaming, why would you run towards it? Like,
well, you want to get a visual.
Like, I don't know. She's going straight towards. Like, I would just assume there's people there, and like I'd be figuring out what to do from there. Like elsewhere,
Yeah, but
not running towards them.
I've seen so many collections of birds that just do that for no reason.
Birds
like
fly
it could
away?
it could be just a bunch of, no, it could just be literally like they wind and like there's nothing like a predator or
Fair.
anything around them. They just, for me, it just also feels like that's like a really veteran move. Like I don't know that necessarily she know, like we haven't really had that time with her to know.
Yeah.
We haven't been seeing anything. And from this show, one thing I love about this show is that they show and don't tell. You know what I mean? Like they're going to show you what happens. They're showing you everything. These character building moments are all shown. And there's a couple moments in here with, like I said, the gun and like the stick up and all this other stuff where we haven't been shown any of this. We haven't even been told that she knows any of this stuff. So for me, I was like, oh, okay. Like from like a terrible hunter. And now suddenly she can pick up, oh, birds moving means people.
Right.
Which it really doesn't necessarily, but
Right.
it was interesting anyway. I that part was kind of like, oh, okay. Like it feels a bit of a stretch for her at this point, but maybe not. But you're right. She does run kind of over to see what stirred them. And she sees, I don't know what, 6 or 7 dudes all toting guns walking down Main Street. And she right away realizes that, hey, these are not friendly individuals, and I saw 2 of them yesterday. So not good.
I mean, is it
The plan-
though?
It isn't a surprise, not at all.
Like I feel like, especially with her tracks, like they would have been. I feel like she wouldn't have covered up her tracks, but yeah.
No, yeah, she definitely didn't. And the second I saw her run off from the night before, I'm like, oh yeah, they're just gonna track those tracks. Like it's winter, there's tracks everywhere. I also thought it was kind of funny though, based on like the snow blowing around that we saw in the beginning of the show. Like for all of you who live in winter, like those tracks would have been long gone.
Yeah, they showed it snowing, right? You were just saying
They
that.
showed it literally snowing
it
and
was like,
blowing.
Okay,
and
they're not going to find her tracks now. It's gone.
even
but-
with that amount of snow, if there's a little bit of wind, those
Yeah.
tracks are filling in. Like you're not finding.
Yeah, that was weird.
Um,
I
it didn't-
definitely thought that too. How?
Yeah, well, they just tracked her back to the community. No, because they literally said when they were in town, they're, oh, let's go back and track them. Like it's not a big. It was literally a line they said, and I was like,
Yeah.
that's not gonna work, but that's okay. Doesn't really matter. It's small detail. So then we snap to them where they're talking and they say plan is to bring the girl back and kill Joel. So if you get the girl, save her. If you and kill Joel. It doesn't say Joel, but that's what they mean. And they argue over whether they should bring her back because he's another mouth to feed. So James and David again are fighting back and forth. And they're kind of talking about it here. Well, he's like, well, if you kill the dude and leave her, she's just gonna die. And he's like, well, maybe her dying is God's will, right? So we're kind of getting back into this whole thing again. I think at this point too, David is kind of feeling threatened as the number 2. You can kind of feel it already, like he's weirdly into this person, and that he might be replaced. I think he's kind of feeling that. So at this point, then Joel is super weak. Ellie runs back, barricades up the door with a bookcase, which is obviously not. You can tell like immediately it doesn't belong there, and leaves on the horse. She says like, if someone comes in here, protect yourself. I'm going to try and distract him. She leaves on the horse. She blasts a bunch of shots just randomly. I don't know why she didn't at least try to shoot one of them with one of those bullets instead of just blasting them into everywhere. But anyway, she does that. And then as she's running through town, she's trying to leave. James kind of has a corner on her and he shoots the horse. She goes whipping over top of the horse.
That was
She went down.
Yeah, she went down.
It's
hard.
It went down like a sack of potatoes. So I mean, it's one of those things. Yeah, the horse just dies immediately. So it must have been a heck of a shot. David runs up along with a few others, and he starts to like cock his gun back as if he's going to finish Ellie off, even though that wasn't the plan. And right away, David yells from the back, says stop, and he picks up Ellie and carries her away.
Well, someone else said finish it or do it or something like that.
Yeah,
like,
they were egging
Yeah,
him on.
yeah.
they were very
They were
obviously
egging him on.
not
They're like,
on what's his face's side.
yeah, they're like, do it. And obviously, I mean, that's not what David, the leader, had said. So he ends up going there. Another person goes with him back to camp with Ellie, and the rest of them are left there to track down Joel. And they say if you find him, kill him, basically. The others are now going door to door to find Joel. So they're all going one at a time. And Joel can hear a dude breaking in in the house. So he hears him knocking around. He moves this thing. So right away he knows, oh man, like there's a guy coming in here. He hides. The dude comes in there and he knifes that guy in the neck with what remaining strength he has left, which is a pretty miraculous recovery because he can barely open his eyes, and now he's standing and stabbing.
This is a gnarly death.
Oh yeah.
It was I think it was the part that he falls down and lays beside him. And I'm assuming that he's falling down because he's friggin' tired and not just wanting to watch the life drain from the man's eyes. But it was the yellow teeth for this crazy guy and his scraggly hair that just made the death just look so much gnarlier.
And he just like, it was the fact like he had to like hold it in there, and then he just kind of collapsed out of exhaustion. And this dude's like, 6 inches away from your face. Eyes are like wide open. Like it's just very creepy. And the blood, it was a very creepy death.
It was really good.
It was a very creepy death.
Really
very good. Yeah. So now we go back to town, to the Silver Lake, and Ellie wakes up in a jail, and David is waiting. So she's immediately in jail. He says the others want to kill her, and basically that he saved her because he's a leader, he can protect her, and that he's trying to get her to join his side. Keeps telling her to face reality, that she is not in a position to really be bartering here. That he's trying to get power over her, and it's just she's not having any part of it. She's snipping back at everything. She has quick comments back to everything. Says that she needs to trust him, but she isn't having any part of it. Now we go back to the town, who's looking for Joel, and a second little Goonie dude walks up and finds a third one on the ground outside. At this point, Joel captures both, fights both, and basically is using them as hostages. He's interrogating them. So he gets them both knocked out, ties them up. One's against the wall, one's in a chair, just like the game, and puts a knife in the one guy's mouth and says, point on the map where this town is, and you better be right, because if your buddy doesn't have the same spot, he's gonna lose it, basically. So he says like this is we saw it. I think didn't they do this earlier as well? Yeah, they did this to the other people. Earlier, a couple episodes earlier.
A lot better of a situation where he's not stabbing a guy in the kneecap, but
this one was a gnarly one too.
But this is this is the first and I think only time that we actually would have seen this in the game. The other one never existed. The one where they meet those people in the cabin, that part never existed. So this is the first time we get that whole like really cool mentality. Like, you guys better point to the same place or I'm gonna lose it. Points to the map, says the same part. He points on there, and at this point, he also has stabs him in the knee, and he's asking about, or stabs him near the kneecap, and asks about Ellie. And he says, "What girl?" And he starts twisting it. They're doing all these things during this part. So the guy points at the thing at the map, and then he basically gets his knife, and he says, and he just says, "Screw it!" And he stabs the dude that's in the chair. The other guy behind him was like, "What are you doing? What are you about?" Which is hilarious because they were about to do the exact same thing to him.
Yeah.
So it's funny that they're suddenly on the moral high ground being like, "What are you doing? You shouldn't do any of this," and all that stuff. And then he kind of, I don't know exactly what he says. He's like, "Oh, I'll show you where it is. I'll show you where he's got. That's okay. I don't need you." I believe the last guy, and then cracks him in the head.
The pipe makes an appearance.
Yep, the pipe makes an appearance. Well, that's exactly what happens in the game too, right? So, really cool scene. I'm glad they kept this part, because like I said, it's in the game as well, and it's a very cool scene in the game as well, where you just see this is where you start seeing like the rage of Joel. Like there's a level. He's angry most of the time, but this is like that Spartan rage, that Kratos rage that you've just pushed him one too far, and he is just going to screw up everyone's life in his like sort of journey to find what he loves most or what he cares about most.
And it's obvious that he's like this angry because they've taken Ellie, and that's the one thing he actually cares about. It would have been nice if there was like some line in there that just reinforced that a little bit. Like some sort of thing where the guy like insults the girl and that makes him like give him one more punch or something like that. Like just something to make it very obvious that he's doing this crazy stuff because of Ellie. I would have liked.
Yeah, I mean, I think because 2 episodes ago, when they kind of have that mending time where they're like learning how to shoot, and it's all great and everything. I think that part right there is kind of like them being like, okay, now they're like this, right? They're like tight, and it might have been good for a reminder, but it was awesome. I still love it.
It was awesome.
Yeah,
I love seeing vengeance. And then at that point, after that moment, he kills both of them. We go back to Ellie, and we right away see Ellie's trying to break out. She's frantically like trying to turn bolts and trying to find any weakness in this jail. There was like a window. There was like a window up top. I thought like, man, you could just slide right out of that thing.
yeah
I thought she was just gonna jump, or break it and just get out. But whatever. And then she eventually sees something. She's going around doing everything. And David comes in there, and she right away, he drops, I think, a plate down first, and then she sees something in the back, and she sees an ear, a human ear in the back there.
Yeah.
And this is where we get our confirmation that they are just good old fashioned cannibals.
Yep.
He kind of says it's starve or eat people is kind of how he puts it. Which again, sure, maybe. I don't know. I think I'd rather just choose death.
There's got to be a better option. Like
there's got to be a better option. Like to be this desperate, you got to be something.
It was like he went straight. Like, oh, we're low on a bit of food. Straight people. You know what?
Yeah.
This is where we're going.
So good old cannibals. Starve or eat people, probably eating the guy that died. Once again, I have in here that they're probably eating the guy that died, which we had talked about before. David says Ellie reminds him of himself. So David's talking about how Ellie, like the personality of Ellie is, she's a leader and she has a violent heart, and how he used to have a violent heart, and he actually kind of respects the cordyceps because they grow and they multiply and they love and all these sort of things. So you can just see like this dude is unhinged. Like he is just on a different level right now. Every second we spend with him, just another leaf, another little, a bit of the onion gets peeled back here, and we're seeing some of this.
And he's really not making a convincing argument on any of the things he's saying. He just has these pretty crazy views.
Yeah.
Yep. That basically is correct. He's crazy view. What else we got here? David wants to be an equal with her, and could call. He said he could call off the hunt. Old David wants to imagine how life could be in the life we build. He says they slowly kind of have this moment where they're getting closer and closer together in the to the gate. Like they're kind of getting closer and closer. Like, oh, it's like a Disney moment. And they get closer and closer, and he keeps talking, and they get closer and closer. And then eventually Ellie, as she's been just playing him just like before, grabs his finger, snaps his finger, and then tries to grab the keys, but misses the keys
so hard, man.
And he just reaches through and rips her head off that door like 3 or 4 times, and she is just bloodied up.
It's steel.
But at the same time, she messed him up. She messed him up. She messed him up real good.
Almost got the keys too. Ooh.
Almost got the keys. It was a good play.
It was very good
play.
Good effort.
But once again, shot for shot from the game, which is very, very cool. So then at this point, this scene ends. We go back to Joel. Joel is now on his way towards where the town is. Joel is in another snowstorm. So there's another snowstorm happening. Once again, no toque, no hood, nothing. these dudes are like freaking sheets of iron at this point.
Never obviously been
I
in
mean,
snow.
Troy Baker didn't have a hat. None of these guys have like toques or anything on. Like, what is this? Is this a hair thing? What's our? None of them like being warm. You chose to settle in a place where there's winter.
And
Yeah.
this is just like the game, right? Am I crazy in thinking that like you take control of both characters at this point, right? Where you're like weaving Joel through
Yeah.
the snow and then
Well, yeah, kind of. It's at different points.
okay.
But yeah,
Okay.
you're right. There is some flipping back and forth here.
I did have some slight issues with
Um,
him just wandering into this city. Like if you're
yeah.
at a place
Well,
that has lasted this long and you have
Mhm.
a dude with a very obvious gun just wandering in there, you'd think there'd be
Well,
some sort of patrol somewhere.
Well, and we'll talk about that. I have a few thoughts on that stuff too. So Joel gets in here, gets closer and closer to the town. He sees a giant blood trail into a building. He goes inside. He finds Ellie's backpack, so he knows he's in the right place. And he follows the blood and finds a dead horse, which is obviously
Peanut.
her horse. Yeah, Peanut. And then he goes a little further and he sees a bunch of dead bodies hanging there.
They are
Yum yum.
gross.
Yeah, no
that
heads or
was
anything on them.
They are
that was a
headless
gross one.
and slightly saran wrapped.
Yeah, something, and they're missing like chunks and stuff. It's bad. It's bad news bears. At this point, we go back to Ellie, and Ellie's being removed from the cell. So David and James come in, and they just violently remove them. And they just get picked up and just ragdolling her. But while that's happening, she bites David on the hand.
Ow.
Yeah, she gives him a good arr, and they put her down at a table like they're done. They're gonna end her, and she right away says, "No, I'm infected." And then they stop for a moment. They stab the knife down right beside her head, and she's just like, "No, I'm infected. Look at my arm, and now you're infected because I bit you." And they're like, "No way, that looks like a bite." And they're talking back and forth. And then meanwhile, while they're having their sort of debate,
Boy.
Ellie grabs the butcher knife and whips it across and gets James right in the neck. Let me tell you, one hit KO. He hits the ground. She runs off. And David can't shoot anything because he has half a hand and no trigger finger. Um,
Oh. I was wondering why you'd missed her
yeah.
so many times.
Yeah, in the game, it's a little bit more obvious because he's holding it. He only holds it one hand. This one, he had two hands up, but his fingers were like kind of mangled around it. But in the game, he only holds it with his left hand, so that's why he misses so often. Like it's just all over the place
Oh.
because she broke his like the gun hand. So she runs off, and then Ellie grabs a. She's now in the main like the area where they were having their town meetings. I think is this the same
Yeah,
building?
yeah.
Yes, it is, yep.
Same like
This is the
resort
same building. I
building or
thought
whatever.
so. Yeah, I thought so. So the steakhouse building, townhouse, whatever it is.
Odd.
And the thing is that she grabs a stick. It's a little fiery stick, and that's going to be her weapon because she doesn't have a whole lot. And David comes in there and starts sort of talking. She throws the stick at him. It hits the corner where there is drapes. The drapes catch on fire. This place is made of wood. It's been here drying for how many years? It's going up like kindling.
Yep.
I said here he's kind of throwing a tantrum. He's kind of keeps getting beat by this little girl, and he's getting more and more desperate, getting a little bit more crazy and more crazy. Like I obviously don't use the C word, and with low here, he is literally going. You can tell he's losing his mind. Like he's running out of ways to convince her. I don't know if he's ever really had pushback to this point. Everyone in the village just listens and follows, and she ain't having any of it. So David says he's going to teach her a lesson. Throwing a tantrum. David says he's going to teach her a lesson. Ellie lunges and stabs him, and then he throws her to the ground. She loses her weapon. At this point, once again, this is just like in the game. You start seeing a really creepy mode come out. David hops on top of Ellie and says he likes the fighting, which once again, just like a weird line.
Got right into it.
Got right into it. He says he likes it when people fight, basically alluding, and he talks about love and how they could have been together, and it's yeah, it escalates real quick.
It did seem like a bit of a
Ellie,
jump.
well, it does in the game too, but at the same time, you can see it.
Like
You can see it
I
happening.
understand that he's creepy, but yeah, it just seemed like, I guess when he's in a desperate situation, he's not getting what he wants, then just kind of goes for it. But
Yeah,
it was a hop.
yeah, it was a bit of a hop, but that happens. I mean, he's pushed to the edge. He's done sort of talking with her at this point. He's over it. Um, so now he's on top of Ellie. Ellie grabs a cleaver and starts chopping away. So gives him a good whack and then hops on top and then just starts. You just see her face. They just show her face and she's just whacking like she's chopping wood. He is just mangled.
The
And then
therapy that is
yes, the
required
therapy that
from
would
that
be
one.
needed. She's in a state of shock now. She stumbles out of this sort of steakhouse and walks outside, and that's where Joel finds her.
And
right where he
creeps
says
up
like
on her.
Yeah.
creeps. Well, I mean, he also didn't know she was having a, didn't see what happened. So,
I know,
he goes up behind her and just is like, yo, baby, like the baby girl,
Oh.
line and everything, and starts like sort of like being like, yo, chill, calms her down, and they slowly start walking towards the lake, and that is where the episode
the
ends.
baby girl one got me. That's where me and Miss Wrangler looked at each other, both having a tear in our eye because it was just the baby girl line. I was like, oh man.
Baby girl, yep. That's the first time we get that, that baby girl line since, like the first first episode when he gets when Sarah gets shot, right? So
Yeah.
it's kind of come full circle. This is his way of acknowledging if you didn't know before, then if you didn't know before, now you know, right? Like this is where he stands. But I think we could have probably concluded that, and then that ends that episode. So where do we want to go from here, boys? What do you want to talk about? Do we want to talk about James? Do we want to talk about the story of the bad guys here first?
Sure. Let's divide it by. Let's
divide and conquer. James and David. Like I said, I love Troy Baker's performance here. I really did. I mean, like I said, the guy can do no wrong. In my opinion, it was just great. The little bit he was on screen was enough. Enough that I could kind of understand and where he's coming from. The James character, I think, like I said, he played him real well. It's what they needed. I don't know. What do you guys think of that performance?
Druckmann did that on purpose. Like, I just feel like someone like Troy Baker, who is like probably arguably the biggest voice actor in video games. Like, I wonder if he wanted to give him a role to try to springboard something into acting for him, if that's what he wants.
Well, it's funny. I heard an interview with him today because obviously they do a bunch of like podcasts and stuff.
Yeah.
And he got interviewed and he just kind of said like he was hoping he was gonna get a little bit, and it was funny because like I guess Neil had contacted him and been like, I got a piece for you, and in his head he's like, oh good, like do I even have a character that has a name, or am I like a clicker? Is my name Clicker? like what is that how I'm getting in here? And he's like, no, you have a name and everything, and he was pretty fired up about it. But yeah, it's yeah, he definitely did a good job. I don't know. I have to look up. I know him as obviously a voice actor and he's a singer and has albums and things like that, but I didn't know if he's actually been on screen before.
Let me check.
Does anyone know?
I'll check.
Or familiar with his work?
I don't know.
But like I said, he killed it. And the other dude, I can't remember his name, the actual actor's name. I've seen him before in places. But yeah, David, yeah, he played the creepy role just perfect here too as well. It was that sort of I call it like the settling, like the fact that like you didn't know originally how dark this dude was, how bad he was, until they kind of got the further and further. Like I said, the onion kept getting peeled away, and you're like, oh, this is a deep well. This is a deep well of creepiness going on with this dude. Yeah, they played it perfectly in my opinion. I don't know what'd you guys think of him?
I think it was good. It was yeah. He played it well. It was like just enough where you're like some time start, at least for me, it was like, okay, like maybe he's just that kind of guy, like, and then as it's going, it just becomes, oh no, like he's just absolutely insane. Just his slowly starts slipping.
No other thing I can find on Troy Baker. It just seems like anytime you say actor, it just throws in all of his voice acting stuff as well.
Oh, okay.
Okay. I like David a lot. I think he had a perfect arc. He went from arc.
Yeah.
Where he went from trying to be nice, trying to be like the welcoming person, where you can kind of see, okay, this is why some people are kind of going along with him because he can put on this nice face, and then it goes from just that to pretty mad and just very power hungry. So it was fun.
For sure.
I think he did a good job of it too.
did a great job. I mean, and the thing is too, like when you're only given 50 minutes on screen is the entire episode. So you're not going to get as much time with him. Like if I take this character and again I look back at like the Kathleen character that we had in episode I think 4 and 5, right? Like to me this one had a lot more sort of obviously creepy.
Yeah.
Okay, we all get that part of it, but we also sort of see the town and being how desperate it is, and you could see how someone who's like predatory in nature, right? Like that sort of idea that like even he might have not because his story of I'm the leader because there was no one else isn't necessarily true. They don't really say, but he probably sort of tricked them into it. That's always how this thing sort of happens, right? It's like with any sort of predator. They sort of understand that when all the food's gone, when all the when all the material items aren't there, and everyone's sort of scrambling, right? Like the idea that he's a preacher, also people turn to religion, people turn to these sort of things. It's like a tale as old as time when it's in Hollywood. It seems like, right? Like that people get desperate and they'll follow these people, and that he was just kind of grooming all of them, right? Kind of like that sort of predator grooming sort of thing. Does that make sense? Like, but I'm trying to.
Yeah.
To me that makes sense. Like I don't obviously his story of I just got there because of there was no one else. I don't necessarily buy that. I think there's a deeper story there that we don't know about, and that's maybe his cover up that he was using for her. But yeah, he's in 50 minutes, and he's not on screen for often, that much, because we have the Joel and Ellie, we have the henchmen, we have the this and that. He's not on screen that much, and we got a very meaningful character, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I feel like now is a good question or a good time for me to bring up the question. But do we think the rest of the place knew to the extent of how evil he was, like with like the predatory pedophilia kind of thing, or do we think that that was still left in the dark from the rest of the town, or was it obvious with that daughter of that woman?
Yeah, I wasn't sure about that. Okay, so because obviously I knew kind of as long as they stuck to the script and kind of knew where this was going, that he was going to be this predatory person, but I didn't. I don't know. I don't know. Like I knew he wasn't going to be. I didn't know if they were insinuating when he at the beginning, even at the beginning, that I'm like when she was crying, I'm like, oh no, she's like abused by this dude already, and this is gonna come full circle. That was my original thought. I didn't think like, the father, and I didn't think that route. I thought I'm like, oh yeah, I know how creepy this character gets, and she's a young girl that looks a lot like Ellie, and
Right.
immediately went to like, oh my gosh, is this like another abusive situation that we're gonna come full circle on, and we didn't obviously, but it was one of those things where, yeah, I don't know. It was creepy.
That's creepy.
Creep show. Um, yeah, was there any sort of so we really liked him. We're generally pretty positive. I mean, obviously, I like the character,
Loved
not
it.
the obviously what he did. Yeah.
I have
Okay.
I have no issues. Yeah.
Okay. Then let's keep moving on. So then, obviously we have Joel and Ellie. Joel kind of gets back. We haven't really seen him do anything now for a few episodes. He gets back. He gets back up. And I mean, this part isn't really a story about him. Other than maybe his just sort of uh the love he now has for Ellie, I
Right.
think, in my
Yeah.
opinion. But he doesn't really do a whole lot other than that. Um, Nothing really new for him there, in my opinion.
I'm just
Anything
happy
else?
we got to see him taking those guys out in the town. Like, just like
Yeah,
there was only like I think they only showed 4 guys getting killed or whatever. Um,
yeah,
but like just the fact that like you just see him like systematically taking these guys out. I was like,
Oh,
oh, like
yeah,
finally we're seeing like how he's been
yeah,
doing
and
all this
I'm
stuff, how they've been
yeah,
getting everywhere, right?
totally. I'm glad he didn't have to do much. Like I'm glad they didn't
Hmm.
make him just instantly become Joel who he was. Like, yeah, the first guy was like a desperation kind of kill. Um, and I'm glad they didn't show too much of the rest of the guys. Like I'm glad it was more of an
yeah,
ambush style attack,
yeah.
because like there's no way this guy has the energy to take on 4 dudes like
Well,
that.
that was
So
part of my
Head on, yeah.
gripe with this too, is just like, and I understand, like, don't get me wrong, this episode is beat for beat basically the game.
yeah.
It like this really is. I didn't take as where there's been small changes, there hasn't really been many changes with this one. And I found with him in this episode, like specifically, I didn't really buy it, how quickly he suddenly kinda got back to being, like, able to move and being mobile and all that stuff. To me, I was like, "Okay, this is very video gamey," as I think, like, the entirety of the game or the show, sorry, has been taking those weird video gamey moments and being like, we're grounding it in something
Right.
else. Like,
Right.
we're taking this and we're gonna ground it so it's even more believable instead of being like, okay, it's a video game. Um, and I felt this is the one episode where they're like, they didn't really write around those sort of weird areas. You know what I meant? Like, so the fact that, I mean, we don't know how many days have passed in this
Yeah.
is another issue. We don't know how many days are passed. In the game, we jump from fall to winter when he gets stabbed, so we assume a large chunk. But we don't know here how much time has passed. It could have, for all like looking at him, it could have been a day or two. If we're just talking like she stitched him up, it could be only a couple days since he's been stabbed, like
Yeah.
1 or 2 days.
Yeah.
So the fact that he lost that much blood, didn't really have any food in his system,
And
it's
one
just
shot of
it's
penicillin, he's suddenly up and going. Like
2 shots, 2 shots of
shots.
penicillin, 2
One in
shots.
the morning, one in the
second was-
evening.
Yeah.
But even then, like he hasn't probably had a whole lot of water. Like at no point did we show. I mean, we assume maybe he had some, like, you know what I mean? Like it's, I don't know. He lost a lot of blood. So this was one part of kind of like, okay, yeah, this is a bit video gamey, but whatever.
I get
I'm
that.
okay with it.
And I'll play devil's
I'm
advocate
okay with it.
just to be the devil in it.
Yeah.
But
Well, and I'm
it's-
nitpicking in this
and
too.
it's, no, that's good because I'm usually the one who has to nitpick, so it's nice I don't have to.
Yeah.
But like, if you think of like any action movie, like any person surviving this 30-foot fall onto concrete and they get up and keep beating the crap out of the main bad guy. Like, I think there's
Yeah.
always parts in movies that are just like, okay, but you just kind of like,
You tap into Hollywood a little
yeah,
bit.
you go Hollywood with it. That being said, I would have liked the same thing. I would have liked to see him be a little bit more labored, even if after he stabs the first dude, like
Yeah.
him like falling over, really struggling with it, or just something.
Yeah.
It's like, you're an old dude. You didn't eat. You're thriving on penicillin and not all your blood.
Bit of
Mhm.
adrenaline, you know?
Yeah. Adrenaline for sure. You
Yeah.
could just say it's all motivated by Ellie, but
Yeah.
Yeah, you could say it is that sort of adrenaline, but I don't know. It's just, yeah, it's a,
that's fair.
Sustained for
it's
that
a-
long though would be, I think. I'm not an expert, but I feel like that long sustained of adrenaline, I
Yeah.
don't think is possible.
no,
right?
no, it wouldn't. No, it wouldn't. He'd be super weak.
Yeah.
And then get to Ellie.
Stuck right
So this is obviously in the game as well. This is that moment where they sneak it on you that you get to play as Ellie. So no one's when you play the game originally, you don't see this coming because you've been playing as Joel, the character, the entire time. This is kind of Ellie's sort of big moment to grow up, and that's kind of how this whole thing goes. This is kind of her last little bit of humanity story, where she loses a little bit, the last little bit that is like the innocent child. And you kind of see the character that eventually gets molded into The Last of Us Part 2. To kind of like roll things forward. So, I once again loved it. Like I said, there was moments where I kind of like, okay, like they took a little bit of liberties again with like the whole, like I said, the gun, cocking the gun and having the shells pop out and like being like a professional. It almost looked like they've been, you know, having people. They've been holding people up for a year. Like, you know what I mean? She looked very professional at it.
Mhm.
And kind of like, has to be her first time doing this, right? Like, other than those other people in that house, this is the first time we've really seen her do this by herself. So, I don't know. I was kind of, she took good strides, but it was also kind of like, I felt like a little bit of a jump in some of these early scenarios.
In how prepared she was.
Yeah.
Fair.
Like I said, and the only reason I'm saying this, it's once again kind of play devil's advocate, but also to say a little bit of like the show has done such an amazing job of show don't tell, right? It's not like they're sitting, you know, talking to some two henchmen. They're like, yeah, have you seen this girl? She's been doing all sorts of this and this and this. Like we're just kind of being like an information dump,
Yeah.
right? It's like we've seen everything she's done. We've seen these crucial moments of like her growing up and her being this and learning how to be tough and learning how to defend herself. And we haven't really seen this part of it in this show. And I don't know, like I said, it feels a little bit awkward, but I mean, it is one of those things. Like I said, the only thing that comes up is like when they had those two people in the cabin. But yeah, that wasn't really a stick up situation as much as they're trying to. Um, anything else from that beginning part with Ellie that you're kind of want to talk about at all?
No,
No.
no, I
Okay.
don't think I have any.
Like I
don't
said,
think
and my
so.
kind of my earlier statement too is like
Oh,
the reason, like with Ellie being sort of the last little bit of like humanity that she has as a kid, right? We kind of had this moment earlier on where Joel has deep resentment because he got saved by her in like the fourth episode or whatever, where she went up and shot the dude. Um, this is kind of, that was one part of her. If it gone, this was another one, right? Like this is the part where she completely sort of, I don't know, in the game anyway, once this scene happens with David, it's kind of that last little bit of moment you see her kind of being like, now she's an adult. Like she
Yeah.
doesn't care about anything anymore. Like she's no longer that she's almost like Joel. She's in that state. Any sort of other takeaways you got from that?
The only thing I got was 8:14 into the show.
Mm-hmm.
She falls into snow, and she gets up, and she has snow covering her face, and I was like, "That's real
Oh,
snow.
so
It's real
you think that's,
snow."
yeah, it was real
And
snow?
then she wipes it off, and I was like, "Man, would that hurt?"
Yeah,
When he,
Yeah,
like,
snow sucks, man.
wipes snow
Snow
off your
wash?
face, like, it's scratchy.
Yeah.
But it's
very.
like every movie has fake snow, and obviously they can't put that much fake snow, but I was like,
Well, they're
"It's
also in
actually
Alberta, so
real."
they don't need fake
Yeah,
snow.
and it's cool. It's cool to see real snow on face.
Yeah. The
Oh,
it is interesting. I like that everyone got to experience this. I'm glad as a show in general that they didn't. That's part of my critique with it is that they didn't really fix the small issues that this part of the game had. But I also can be, if I'm being honest, they didn't need to. I don't think they needed to. It's close enough that it's sure there's a few little bit like where you kind of like, okay, it's a little suspension of disbelief, but I don't think they needed to change a lot of this episode. I don't know. What are your kind of overall feelings of it?
that's great.
It was good.
It was great. It
I
was great stuff.
yeah.
Okay. Okay.
I don't think I have any
Yeah, no,
more points on it.
nothing more. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Then that brings us to let's get to the review section. Let's get to the review section here. Let's bring up our scores from last week. Poco wasn't here, but we've got a score up there.
Poca, do you want to defend your score at all?
I don't think I need to. Unless someone thinks I don't know if I don't think I need to defend it, but if anyone wants to come at me, feel free.
I'm just curious the
You know
reason
where to
behind
find
it.
them.
I mean, obviously you and I gave it a pretty similar score.
I
Mhm.
I was so bored. Like I like the character. I like it. It was all fine. I'm just
Yeah.
at this point in the show. I'm like wanting. I just wanted something like this last episode where it felt like something was happening. Not that nothing happened.
Mhm.
It's like um I was just bored.
Fair.
If this
Yeah.
was any other TV show, I realized this at some point. I was like, you know what? Like the first two episodes were phenomenal,
Mm.
and even that one with all the clickers and stuff, with Henry and whatever the other guy's name is,
Sam.
Sam. That was also great. But like some of these slow ones, I feel are just like taking the wind out of my sail watching it.
Yeah.
Like I'm sitting there on my phone and stuff, and it's just like, oh, this is
I think part of the issue too, and I it's kind of interesting. I don't because for me, obviously, the score I gave it, I didn't really feel that way.
mhm,
I didn't feel like it was slow. I felt like this was like important sort of back driving story for why Ellie does everything she does for Joel in this episode and last episode. Um, so I think it shows why she has that, why she doesn't give up, why she does, and it's important context, I think.
right,
But I can understand from like a entertainment value, it is a bit slow. But then I also look on the other hand, you look at other shows that are pretty widely loved. Like I look at something like Game of Thrones. You don't get anything in some of the for a season. Like
yeah,
we're talking a couple episodes. You don't get anything for like a season.
Yeah.
And I don't know. You look at where it is. It's something with the show, and I don't know if it's the expectation. And this isn't about you, but I don't know if
right,
it's the expectation because it's a zombie. People call it quotation zombie, sort of post-apocalyptic world that they're expecting. More excitement, like more sort of attention, more sort of action every single episode. If that's sort of baked in there somehow, I don't know what does it, but it seems to be like, yeah, people online, same thing. Some of them, which I don't necessarily think are good takes, are always like, this is a post-apocalyptic movie, and we haven't seen an infected in 2 episodes or 3 episodes or at all. And I'm kind of like, that's just not what this show is.
Right.
It just isn't. Right? Like, it's a part of the story. It's a part of the story that drives it to where it needs to be, but it's not the story.
Right. I think an easy solution that may satisfy people, and maybe even me a little bit more, would have been, because they have all these like establishing shots. I'm not just talking about in episode 7, but like
Yeah.
in the other episodes, they have like all these traveling shots and these landscape shots and stuff. Throw 1 or 2 in there of them hitting something, killing something. Just like it doesn't have to be like a big thing. Like it's just like, oh, like stab, shot, and then that's good. Like, you just show that they are working their way through the land and like encountering something. It's not just like, it doesn't seem like anything's threatening them at this point besides food and weather. Like, it's like, oh, and of course people, but we also rarely get people that they, not rarely, but like,
well, we do get people pretty frequently. Like other than last episode, we had people before that, and before that, and before that, right? So they're driving really home, and this is obviously what I said too. And I talk about people like I work like that too. I say to you, and honestly, I said, like, this show is a statement on like as much human nature as anything.
Yeah.
And that's what the game does too. I mean, it's a statement on human nature. The fact that even if, let's say, 80% of people were to turn to clickers and zombies, like, if humanity was able to band together, we would still win. Like, the reality is we would there's enough firepower and everything around the world that we could deal with this. But the problem is that the people are their own worst enemy. The fact that they can't live together and grow crops, and they always have to worry about being protected and staying tight, and instead of being like, oh no, like we'll rebuild, we'll make it better, is kind of the main statement that comes around with this. And the fact that I think you see how this world creates a perpetuating motion of just people being like, okay, well, I'm a kid and I'm going to be good, but then they can't even get to adulthood without these terrible experiences that no one should have to face, right? And now they're hardened, they're angry at the world, and the next person, it's just kind of this sort of, I don't know, it's a circle. And you can see how this world gets caught up like that. I don't know. It's just very interesting. I think some people have different expectations sometimes for the show, so that's just, I don't know. It's kind of my little piece about it. I don't know. But I can definitely see. I told people too. I could also see from episode 7 how someone might think it's slow and its backstory and all that stuff. But okay. Anyway, enough about last week. Episode 8. Anyone want to go first? Does anyone want to volunteer? You want me to go first?
I just give me a quick. What was episode 4? Which one was that? Was that the Henry Sam one?
That was the original Kathleen one, where they first get into Kansas City.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm thinking 7.5.
For this one?
Yeah.
7.5?
Yeah.
Ooh. That's like, I'll be honest with you. I think that's lower than I expected out of you. Yeah.
Wow.
Austin, do you want to go, or do you want me to go first?
I'll go.
Okay. Okay, go.
Because I can't do 0.25s, which is disappointing.
No 0.25s. Live with your 0.5s.
I would say this was a 9.5 for me again.
Dang.
I think it is right back up there with the other one that I like so much. I think it was a Sam one. Yeah, this episode just brought intensity. It wasn't boring. It didn't give. Yeah, it didn't. It just didn't do what the last one did, which was nothing. I would say that I would have liked to see this be stretched into 2 episodes, because I feel like there's a lot they could build off of with that town. Because I feel like the whole town was like a very back character to what else is going on. Like, it's like the rest of the people didn't even exist. There was
it was kind of
people that
interesting.
didn't even exist. Yeah.
The guy dies.
it
And then they just
is
walk
weird.
away, and there's no one else.
Yeah, it is interesting. That was one point I wanted to bring up, and thanks for kind of bringing that up. It was very awkward that their main place where they meet is going up in smoke. there's no one really outside and there's no one really around. So either one, they don't care. They're also weak and maybe they're sick from eating human. They don't care, or it's just it doesn't. Yeah, it seems like it was a bit of a I don't know. It just felt weird. It didn't feel like an alive town.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
guess, right? You saw how many people were there and there was really nothing. That part also kind of was like, because in the game, you when you go in there, like there's guards everywhere. You're fighting through guards. There's tons of people. They're armored up, like you know what I mean. So the fact that there's no one even checking this out, the fact they can walk out the front door and they're just taking their time after all this and no one's chasing them down or anything.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah,
Yeah.
it feels
Actually,
it feels
I'd
it
like
feels
to
a bit
change mine
weird.
to a 9 if I could.
Oh,
We talked about it too long.
wow.
Yeah,
That's
I
what
agree with-
About
happened
too
here.
long.
I agree with what Funny Farter says. Could have been a longer episode. Like, it seems
Mhm.
like they're scared. They've just read some sort of marketing thing where if your show is over an hour, nobody watches it. But it's okay to make longer episodes. Like,
I also think it's better though to have like that sort of want for longer episodes versus being like, oh, that one dragged on, or like, oh, there was about 15 minutes in that one I didn't need.
but this one
Like I
didn't
think
feel
it's
that way at all.
no, it didn't. But I'd argue even the last one, like I didn't feel like it was dragging a lot either. Like I was kind of into it. Like
Last one
so I
could
think
have
it's
been
part
20
of
minutes.
perspective, right? Like I think it's part of it is perspective on what's really driving you, right? So I I don't know. For me,
Fueled by action.
I found my score that I'm going to be giving this is also no, I should keep it. I'm going to say 9.5.
Do what you want.
Even
You know
though
what? Do
I
what you want.
found
Screw your second.
no,
don't
I
stop
will.
Give your
doubting yourself.
0.25.
No, 9
Give your
5.
10.
I
Give
was
your 10 like
I
you
was
wanted.
originally I have a lot of nines already.
Really
Look at
give
this.
it
I have a
10?
lot of nines and this is better than 5 and 6 in my opinion. The problem is that I don't think like cuz episode 3 I gave a 9.5. This one not all 9.5s are created equal. This one I don't think is better than number 3, but because I had more small issues, there's a lot more jumps in logic with this one. I didn't feel like it was quite as like, you know, tight, I guess. But that being said, I'm giving it a 9.5 and I thought it was really incredible. I had no
Ah.
problem with it. Really loved it.
Make your switches if you need to.
Nope, no switching.
Alright.
It's locked in.
Alright.
It's on the internet now.
I don't see it actually.
It lives forever.
9.5. Yeah, I enjoy it once again, other than like the small little things you're kind of like, okay, this doesn't make much sense and this doesn't. But they were all very small detail, weird things that it wasn't the end of the world. It wasn't the end of the world. It still followed everything it needed to. It still makes sense. It was once again a really great story driven episode that had enough action in it, I think, to please everybody, right? Like it wasn't over actiony. It still really wasn't. Most of it was talking. So I really enjoy it. Like I said, weird stuff in there, but I still really enjoyed it. Way better than even a lot of other things I'm watching. I'm telling you guys, it's almost depressing watching it and then like going and watching something else, like it just an average show after, because you're just like, oh, it's just not as good. It just isn't. The story sucked. The writing isn't nearly as good, and I just feel like
Oh man.
I'm just into it.
Yeah, I watched a show recently with my wife, and I must have been so annoying because I was screaming at the screen. Like, how is this? I was picking everything apart. Like, it
On
was
what?
just-
Sorry, what was that?
we were just watching a TV show on Netflix, and it was
Oh, okay.
there were so many things that I was just like,
Not
and I would
having-
look at her like at least 5 times an episode and be like, why did this happen? And why did
Yeah.
they do this? Who in their right mind does this? And
Yeah.
just like there was one, I don't know. I'm just gonna quickly. The police showed up in like 5 seconds. They were
Yeah.
robbing a train. The police drive along the side of the train and showed up like not even 5 seconds after they called the police.
It was
I was like, wow, what is that response time?
it was Cyberpunk 2077. Like
Yeah,
they spawned right
They
behind
spawned
you.
right behind him.
There's no
It's just
Reggie
like-
cam on this one.
Oh, not on the thing. Yeah, we can get
Oh,
off this
man.
and he'll be there.
Disappointing. But yes,
Yeah.
it does. I feel like it has. Maybe that's what that was because I remember before
Maybe it
previous.
doesn't.
Might have
Wasn't
cooled
that
down-
bad, but-
cooled down timer. Shit.
It's like
Yeah.
nothing was. Everything in this makes sense for the most part, and
Yeah, exactly.
everyone's pretty smart. They're the ones that have been living,
Yeah.
so they have to be smart.
Oh,
I
I'm just
feel-
so sad. Oh, sorry. Keep going.
I was gonna say, I feel like you could have built up on the relationship between David and the rest of the townspeople. Like, you could have played with a couple more creepy scenes and stuff like that, but I don't want it
I
to
do,
run the risk of it being a slow and boring episode. So
yeah. I do think, and when we talk about this entire series, I do think one of the sentiments we're gonna get, and it's a good one, is that I feel like you could have probably done 10 episodes, no problem.
Yeah.
Maybe debate over 11, but you could have easily done 10 episodes, I think.
this dog.
Especially when you're committing to one to the DLC. Like I think you could have done 10. And I don't know if that was just a decision to help drive the story forward at such a pace, even though it's slow, they're moving really quickly through it. I don't know what that decision was about, but it definitely is interesting, especially when the next one is like 40 some minutes.
Yeah.
It is interesting. I didn't watch the scenes from the next one, so we can't really talk about it this time, or unless there's something Oshers wants to talk about scenes from the next time. Actually, here, no, you keep talking. I'll watch it in 2 seconds here.
It looks like it's going to be very intense.
Very intense. Is it going where we want?
It looks like it is. It seems like all the scenes that they showed are pretty close to the game, from what I remember.
Okay.
But that's the thing. Like, I think that this next one here. Are we allowed to talk about the next one now?
Yeah, so let's go ahead and talk about the next one. If you guys don't want the next stuff spoiled or future stuff like that spoiled, go ahead, hit pause, go, wait till you watch it and come back, and then later on, because we're gonna hopefully spoil some stuff for next week. You know what I'm
Turn the
saying?
volume down really low on your Twitch stream so you don't actually leave.
Yeah, just hang around. Just hang around.
Mute the browser window. That way you still give the view.
Yeah. It looks like it follows it pretty well. I don't know what you do for a full episode on this one. Like, I feel like we're gonna rush into. I can talk about everything, right?
Talk about everything.
Go ahead.
Okay. I feel like they're gonna rush into the whole surgery thing pretty quickly.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be a pretty sad moment because they're obviously expecting her to. Do they expect her to die?
I don't know. They don't know. They don't know until they get there, right?
I feel like it's a well, yeah, I guess.
When you get into The Last of Us Part 2, then they know, right? When they take scans, because I just finished watching that wherever last time, like when you're playing as the other character, that they do know that they're gonna have to. It's a conscious decision.
That they're gonna have to kill her.
That they have to kill her because they talk about it. They talk about it later. Like Marlene talks about it to Joel.
Okay.
At the end of the first game. But you get to see the doctor and Marlene talk about it and their decision on like, no, we can't. She's just a kid. Yeah, blah 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 blah, and back and forth. I just watched it now. The scenes from next time. Interesting stuff they showed.
A lot.
As far as I can see, there's no hospital actually shown in there. There's a I can't remember the girl who does the individual who does Ellie in the game is in there. I don't know what character she plays. I can't really figure out. She's in there. She's the blonde. She's the one who plays the original Ellie. I don't know if you know that.
Yep.
I can't remember her name either. I'm drawing a blank here. Can you please give me her name as well if you find it?
Ashley.
Her actual name.
Something.
Ashley.
Right?
I think so. That sounds right. Ashley sounds correct. I should know this. I don't know why I don't.
Ashley Johnson. Okay, I had to double check.
So Ashley Johnson. This is her cameo. I don't know who she plays. But it looks like she's in some sort of decrepit, like wooden house or something. Wooden something, rather. So that's not the hospital, because the hospital's not made of wood.
Yeah.
There is a very obvious hospital scene where he's in one, though.
Oh, really? Because I was just sitting here. I'm like, I don't know if I saw like them walking up to it.
Which video
like,
did you watch?
Oh, I guess the red. I guess the red wall thing might be. Oh, and the guns, right? But like But I think if you look at the scene, if you go to 18 seconds on the next scene, that's when we get the. I think that's when we get the draft part.
Are you watching the minute 2 video?
No, the episode 9 HBO Max preview. If you go to 18 seconds where she's talking, that's where you get the giraffe.
Yeah, I agree.
I'm calling it right now.
110%. Watch this one.
What more?
You do. Watch it.
So that's where we're gonna get all that stuff. We are gonna get I think they're gonna get there pretty quick too. We're gonna have that moment we're gonna have that tender moment up there. I believe they're gonna use that, like,
As
and
they're
I say
yeah.
tender as a the last sort of the last sort of moment between Joel and Ellie, before they get to the. So I think it'll happen early, like before they get to the hospital. They're gonna have that moment where the giraffe is there, and in the game they share a really quick moment about how Joel is. I think Joel gets. He's like, I'm sorry, like whatever from the whole her having to kill someone experience before that, and he's kind of talking and all that stuff with that. So I think they're gonna have that moment, and then that's where they're gonna fast forward to um in the game they get found by the fireflies fighting a bunch of stuff, fighting a bunch of clickers. Maybe that's that one clicker that's gonna get them caught where they get saved, and then I don't know. Like I don't understand how maybe they'll just walk in, they'll take Ellie, and Joel will be okay with it. I don't know how that all that works out. I think that's going to be interesting because I don't think they're going to follow the game there.
Yeah. Watch the one I sent you.
Oh yeah.
Go to
Okay.
like
Watch.
the 20. Start at 20 seconds, because there she's obviously in a hospital. But
Oh, this one's different.
why is there a baby?
I thought I heard that Ashley Johnson being a
Was her
mother,
mother? Yeah, I was gonna say because
but I
she
don't.
says I knew her since a baby.
Yeah, but
But
a
who's
mom
talking?
wouldn't say that.
Marlene? Oh yeah, this is way more.
Yeah,
So, is it possible that Ashley Johnson playing Ellie's mother, and then that's
Could be.
like in a flashback of Marlene talking about?
maybe. But even as a mom, you wouldn't say I knew her since she was a baby, because it's
But
kind of
that might not be her
implied.
talking though. That sounds like Marlene talking in the
Like if it's
background.
Marlene saying like, "Oh, I've known Ellie since she was a baby," and that's just after Ellie was born, and that
That'd be a turn
clicker's
of
there.
events if Ellie was like if Marlene knew Ellie from a baby and she let them grow up in this Fedra camp and then kind of did that like I don't know, like it's interesting, I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
But
they're getting into it real quick. I think it's gonna be.
what is that building though that they're in at like 25
I
seconds?
know I saw that. Like I'm
I don't
assuming
remember that.
that is. Let me look.
Yeah.
This is like a big friggin' shipyard kind of thing, but I'm assuming that's Joel running away with her.
Yeah. Could be.
Um, it
Oh yeah,
looks
because
like he's
they're just
wearing,
carrying a body,
yeah, and
right?
he's wearing the same color. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. That could be that part. So I
So
mean, it'll be interesting to see what now next time happens. But the problem is the end of the game alone could be a 10-minute sequence, like where there's so many deep seated questions and things. Like it'll be interesting to see how they spend their time being such a short episode. But
Yeah.
yeah, I'm
anyway,
curious if she's going to be left with the same or the same, I guess, question, like what
mhm,
happened, or if he's going to tell her right away, or if she's
how
just
that
going
all
to
is
kind of
going to
figure
shake
it
out.
out. Guess we'll
Yeah,
have to wait a couple days.
have to wait. We're gonna have to wait, guys. Um, okay. Any final thoughts you guys want to say before we call it here today?
Nope.
All righty. Okay.
Oh.
Thanks everyone for tuning in. If you like this episode and you like what's happening, make sure you check us out for episode 9 or check the other ones out in the YouTube. Check these boys out on Twitch or on, I mean, anywhere. Just Google them. They'll pop up.
Nice.
And,
Yeah.
give them some follows, give them some donation. I don't know, do whatever you want.
I'll take all your money.
No, don't do whatever you want. Just do something positive. Let's keep
Yeah,
it
be
there.
positive.
And yeah, we'll catch you guys all back here for the big finale next week. And, everyone take care. Peace.